shit with balls. See that?
That's his fault.
What would happen if a police officer initiates a pursuit with a fleeing vehicle, then that vehicle crashes, and then the officer says, oh well, and he just drops the pursuit and he leaves the scene? He doesn't stop and give first aid. He doesn't call for an ambulance. He just leaves. He just turns the other direction and heads to Dunkin Donuts. Is that a civil rights violation? The answer to that, in my opinion anyways, might surprise you. It was May of this year in Dallas, Texas. Dallas police officer Leonard Anderson and his trainee, Officer Darian Robertson, observed the vehicle leaving a gas station with his lights off. They began to pursue and attempted to initiate a traffic stop, but the vehicle fled, lights still off. The police car gets left in the dust, basically.
I'm gonna go ahead and come through and shit with balls.
Apparently, the Dallas Police Department has a pursuit policy that provides for officers not to pursue vehicles unless they're pursuing a subject believed to have committed a violent felony offense. And that appears to have been the case here. As far as I can tell, they were chasing the guy just because he left the gas station with his lights off. Now, dashcam footage actually captures the officers witness this car wreck off in the distance, as well as their reactions to it. Through audio from the dashcam video, officers Anderson and Robertson can be heard talking to each other about the crash they just witnessed. Anderson was driving at the time. "Did you see that?" Robertson asked. "That's his fault," Anderson replied.
See that?
That's his fault.
A nearby surveillance camera captured a better view of the vehicle, which narrowly missed hitting a pedestrian, jumping the curb, and then wrecking. 19 seconds later, the same camera captured these police officers, Anderson and Robertson, pull up to the crash site and promptly make a right-hand turn, driving away from the scene. Bystanders at the scene saw what happened. They witnessed the wreck, they witnessed the police car drive away, and they, instead of the police officers, attempted to help the driver, who is now trapped, apparently his car on fire. Eventually, the two officers returned to the scene after other police officers and first responders had already arrived, and the crowd wasn't happy. They had seen what had happened, and they were telling everyone who would listen about it. And the officers tried to tell them at one point that they didn't see what they actually saw, but they weren't having it.
Damn, bro.
The law was chasing him.
Why they cross his head?
Was chasing him.
Why they cross
They
his
seen
head?
this man.
That's how they got so his arms don't fall down. They cross him and then they put the bands over him so his arms don't fall down. They have an IV in his arm right now, so they gotta keep him on his
And when he hit that tree in the car kind of fight, they turned their lights off and turned right.
I look. I hear what you're saying, like
That's not right.
that's right. All right.
That's not right, man.
Hey, okay.
Hey. Oh yeah, you right. Let's get that out. Where the damn police that was chasing him, man? We're gonna get everything worked out, man. We just gotta investigate everything. That shit was crazy. just glad that people did stop. I'm glad people did stop for them. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where the damn police said that watched the boy drive. You know his information? Huh? You know his information? No, I don't know his information. We were just at the damn Chevron run to get some gas, man. And we pulled out the damn lawful behind him, man. And he drove this way, you know what I'm saying? You don't know his first name? No, I don't, man.
I seen it out. I seen it.
Where is the police that left?
Bro, we working on it's police here, bro. Just let us work.
Bro, you a police officer.
We're gonna investigate everything, bro.
Man, when I told they did this, police did this to me. I said out of jail 19 days. They did this to me.
I got you.
They did this to me, shit. You got your cam on. They did this to
They
me.
taking pictures, but they motherfucking like to pour this boy out the car. What everybody
Dude is talking. I literally said I was just by myself when I wrecked out. I wasn't being chased by nobody. So
That's what made them run into the damn thing, man. No, I wasn't in the car, but I was looking at the car. I was watching it. I
then
just
why
left
was the guy in the car telling us something different?
Fam.
That was driving.
Bro,
The car that crashed.
a goddamn police was behind him, man. That's what made him run into the damn thing like that, man. You telling me I'm lying, bro?
No, we're not telling you that you're lying, bro. Yeah, we're not
The
saying
guy that's in the car.
Big on. He's not saying that you're lying, bro. We're just trying to make everything make sense. You feel what I'm saying? You good. Just let us investigate, bro. You good.
The dude gonna live. He gonna live through the shit.
That's what I'm saying. He's straight. He talking.
He go here and everything. Dude go here and everything. He ain't about to die. Man.
Yeah, you give us his name.
Afterwards, the chief of the Dallas Police Department said that he was appalled by the officers' actions here, and he commended the civilians for helping the crash victim. Now, here's what happened in the end. Fast forward from May of 2022 to just last week, it was announced by the Dallas Police that Senior Corporal Leonard Anderson would be terminated as a result of this incident, and his trainee, Officer Darian Robertson, was given a 30-day suspension. Now, here's the question. Clearly, we saw police officers in this footage fail to aid somebody who needed aid. No doubt it was a violation of department policy, but was it a civil rights violation under federal constitutional law? Let me know in the comments what you think. This is an interesting issue, and it's not quite that simple. So it's important to remember the basic fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has held, as many people do know, that in general, police have absolutely no duty to protect us. They can refuse to do their jobs, or they can be really bad at doing their jobs, and we can't sue them for it. It's not a civil rights violation, according to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has held that government officials cannot be held responsible for harm caused by third parties. The main case in this is the DeShaney case. I'll put some of the citations for what I'm generally describing here in the blog post linked in the description. So what about here where there was no third party who caused anybody harm, but rather just a car wreck that was caused by the individual himself, who chose to flee from the police with his lights off and he crashed? If a bystander had been hit and killed, that would be the classic sort of third-party case that you generally see. But this one's a little bit different. This is sort of like a suicide case. There's an exception to the general rule that police have no duty to protect. The state does have a duty to protect citizens against private violence or harm where the state has a, quote, special relationship with that citizen. Basically, that means that where the police physically take somebody into custody, whether through incarceration, handcuffing them, or any other number of factual scenarios we could see, they may then theoretically have an obligation to protect that individual from some harm. Could that apply to this situation? For that to be a possibility, we'd have to consider that the driver was seized by the officers. And unfortunately for him, the courts have held, including the Fifth Circuit, which applies here in Texas, that drivers fleeing the police in pursuits are not seized for constitutional purposes. At least not yet. Though the police have engaged in a show of authority, commanding the driver to stop, turning their lights on, etc. Here, the driver refused. And it's not a seizure, according to the courts, until the driver actually submits. Or until the police engage in some sort of use of force to effectuate that seizure, like a pit maneuver. Ironically here, the officer's actions at this scene, of leaving this scene, arguably allowed the government to avoid liability even being triggered here. Had they continued pursuing and arrived at the crash site and placed handcuffs on the guy inside his burning car, at that point, sort of the Pottery Barn rule. Whoever's fault it was, the wreck, it's now broken and they have to fix it. It's their baby. So the question is, okay, so they're not technically responsible yet, but they saw the crash. We saw them see it. We heard them see it. They didn't call an ambulance. They didn't provide first aid themselves. Is that a civil rights violation? We're back full circle to the first issue. The Fifth Circuit specifically has held that there's no general right to medical care. This right has only been found where there, again, exists some sort of special custodial or relationship between the person and the state. Now, there's also a legal doctrine which is sort of the same thing called the state-created danger theory. The idea is that, yeah, the government has a duty to protect you, but if they actually create the danger that caused you the harm, there should be liability. For instance, the Texas A&M bonfire case. Government employees built or allowed to be built this huge, dangerous bonfire that caused harm to people. Unfortunately for citizens, in Texas, the Fifth Circuit, they have refused to adopt the state-created danger theory. There could be a couple of other ideas. I'm sure I could come up with something over a cigar. Maybe an excessive force theory under slightly different facts that we don't have here. Probably the best option would be some sort of failure to provide medical care theory, but you'd have to be able to prove that the subject had already been seized, which, as I explained, is unlikely to be proven here. So it probably would fail. Now, is this news to you? Did you know that the federal courts generally hold that police officers have no legal obligation to call an ambulance for you, to provide you first aid, CPR, and so on? I find that shocking and unacceptable, but it's important to know because you have to know the exception. When? When there's custody or a special relationship. Do you think that the officers here were just playing 4D chess, that they knew all this law? They were just playing 4D chess for their insurance company? I don't think so. Now, the victim here perhaps didn't deserve compensation. He did it to himself. He could have killed an innocent person. So I'm just speaking in general terms, really. The usual tragedy is that this happens, and then the guy hits like a car full of kids and wipes out an entire family. Then the government, similar to what they did here, they just say, oh well, and they take a right-hand turn, and the government just drives somewhere else. As always, thanks for watching. I have some big updates coming in the near future, and I want you to know that I really thank you for your support here on YouTube, and this is going to allow me to really go all out in the coming months. And I predict that in early 2023, I'll be able to file even more lawsuits against the government than I have in any previous year. So there are some big updates coming on cases that you may be following. I'm putting together a list of other like-minded civil rights lawyers, hopefully in all 50 states. I've been overwhelmed by requests for legal assistance and referrals, and if I haven't responded to you directly, please bear with me. I'm working on a plan, and I think you'll like it. I want to provide access to civil rights lawyers for anyone and everyone who wants one. And for those of you who have to represent yourselves or want to represent yourselves pro se, I also want to find a way to help you and provide resources. So please make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Also, sign up for email updates at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. Remember, freedom is scary, but otherwise it doesn't exist. The Karens and the cowards can just deal with it. I'll see you next time.